Do you think you could give a few tips for people who want to bring ceremony and spirituality into their day-to-day life? I know you were speaking about when you go for a walk, you are mindful while you're out on your walk. For people who haven't been able to do that, or after the pandemic, if that's something that they feel that they're missing in their life, is there any tips you can give to people who might be missing that aspect?
There is so much to talk about when we come to spirituality because even water, the importance of water, how critical clean drinking water is. And for me, I have one of those machines that filters water, and I also, on top of that, I pray every time I fill my water container up. I pray that everybody that drinks that water, that the water be blessed and that they receive good health, and that that water will help them uh, with their good health. And so little things like that, blessing your food, giving thanks for food, there's so many opportunities to really be grateful for life itself, and it's imperative, it's critical, especially at my age. When I was younger, I never thought so much about it. I was always good at daily getting up, and but not so many times during the day. Now it's just gratitude for several times a day for good health. When I see people with cancer and I see people that are struggling, and just that I don't have to struggle for a roof over my head, my home is paid for, that itself is a blessing. And just so many things like that. Mindfulness, walking with purpose, and that why we do things, and so forth. So the other thing I do is I'm not a TV watcher. Like, I don't really get so caught up in the outside world. I rather be the fly on the wall and see it, but not become a part of it. And that's another good quality of being spiritual, because you don't have to become engaged with that. I remember in my healing journey, I took the Biocybernaut training with Dr. Jim Hart. And I said, Dr. Jim, I said, are there any English words for being a fly on the wall? I see myself in chaos, I said, all the time, but I'm like the little fly on the wall. I said, are there words to describe that? And he said, yes. I said, what is it? And he said, engaged indifference. And so I thought, yeah, that makes sense. You're aware of it, but you don't have to emotionally get involved with what's going on. And that's been very helpful for a lot of our students, especially through COVID.
I was just gonna say, when I think of the words engaged indifference, that kind of reminds me of mindfulness, or what they say when you meditate. You don't associate emotions or feelings to what is passing by. It's kind of like you're noticing them, you're noticing your thoughts, you're noticing your feelings, but you're not associating a negative or positive emotion. Would you say that's correct?
And a lot of things that I found helped me during that time was during COVID, being alone here. I'm a social being, social butterfly. So I'd go on the website and I'd uh, access the binaural beats or solfeggio music, or some of the meditations by the Tibetans, because Tibetans and a lot of the different Indigenous people from around the globe, we have those same sacred connections. So I was able to tap into things like that, which really helped me with my journey coming through. And I did puzzles and I do word search, and so I don't get bored.
Mm.
And my walks were very important. And sometimes in the winter time, it was hard because none of the streets are cleaned. So I had to use my ski poles, and I'd get my ski poles on, and I'd go down go down the street for my walk, mostly through the back alleys where all the trees are.
Mm. I had a.
So thank you. Oh, sorry.
I,
Go
I was
ahead,
just
Adam.
gonna throw out a kind of a question, partly for I guess myself. Um, I had a a good family friend. His name is Paulie Otoko. He's a Polynesian Islander, and when I was a kid, he used to help us with the powwows for years. Him and his giant family cook us a couple of pigs and uh, old school, loving, giant family islanders. And I remember one time I asked him, uh, about strength, about healthiness, and he said, and on the islands, Adam, he goes, we say that a tree falls down for two reasons. Uh, Either the storm from the outside is too much, and it'll push the tree over. He goes, or sometimes it's from the inside, the sickness that comes from the inside. And when you were talking about that engaged indifference, I feel like I kind of engage with a similar strategy myself in terms of trying to stay slow moving in a fast moving world, and not getting my like emotional roller coaster all the time. And I think that works pretty good for the stuff that storm on the outside, I guess. Um, uh, Selfishly, can I ask you just for your advice on when the storm is on the inside? Because there's been, I kind of feel like sometimes that uh, I don't say like afraid, but almost like like coming to prayer. Um, sometimes it's hard to be indifferent when the stuff is coming up from within, and uh, how to maintain. Uh,
I'm pretty fortunate that way because I have a lot of the old herbal teas like the Labrador teas and stuff like that. So I don't allow myself to get that far down the road. What I do is when I feel something coming on, I try to stop and just reflect. I know with work, I'm not working full time anymore in nursing, but I have twice as much work as when I was working full time, going to a university one class at a time, running a household, and it was incredible. But I've managed to be able to do all of that and still be able to come through all of the chaos that was going on around me.
mm,
There's teas There's teas and meditation and music, vibration. Sometimes I'll just sit, find a tree, and I'll just ask, talk to the tree and share that energy. And it just takes me right back down to where I need to be. So when you're working full time and stuff like that, it's hard to do it because there's such a demand on our lives that it's a challenge to stay focused, to stay rooted and grounded, and be in that peace and harmonious space at all times.
Thank you for sharing that, Grandmother Doreen. Um, I think I want to switch gears a little bit here. I want to ask you about your work with several local organizations. During our prior discussion, you mentioned that you worked with the University of Calgary and the Cumming School of Medicine, the Calgary Police Department, as well as the Calgary Fire Department, and Mount Royal University, just to name a few of them. You engage in teachings about Indigenous traditions and spirituality with these groups. Do you think you can tell us a little bit about why it's important to engage with these groups in this way?
First of all, Indigenous people are the most marginalized and of all the diverse groups in North America. We are the ones that experience racism. There's that systemic racism, and it's important to break those stereotypes in that. And so for me, what I do is, first of all, I sit on the CPSA, College of Physicians and Surgeons, as the elder for that group, because it's important that policies and procedures are inclusive and that they're done in a good way for the people. So that's one of the things. I also sit on the board of CASN, which is a national nursing group for student nurses. And again, we face racism in the hospitals, and many of our people don't like going to emergency or to hospitals or for care because of that. And so it's important to shift that consciousness, that mindset. There's just so much work that has to be done around racism. So the same with the Calgary police folks. I've just spent a few days here with them. We were going over some of the policies and pieces of legislation that they use, and to shift that, to change it, to be more aware, including the Royal Proclamation, to include the United Nations Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous People, to also include the 94 calls to action. All of that sort of training awareness must be brought into these institutions. And I had worked with Captain Barry Dawson, who went through an awful lot of racism when he was still alive. And he passed away about 3 years ago, and he was like my son. And he struggled so hard within that system. So again, it's changing the mindset of those institutions. In nursing, in the Cumming School of Medicine, wherever you are, there's a lot of work to be done. The way, for instance, Indigenous people communicate with one another, the way we have circles versus these square rooms with whatever. We smudge, we use our medicines, we are people that don't believe in superiority, that one person is above or below anybody else. We're all equals in the cycle of life. And part of our teachings, or for me at least, one of the greatest values is humility, to be humble in the work that you do, and those qualities, you should exemplify them rather than having to talk about them all the time. And so when you walk into a room, people should know, wow, I feel that person's energy, and I feel that person's calmness, or I feel their beauty, or I feel their love. Those types of things are very important to me. And so it's critical to work with not only the Calgary Fire Department and the Calgary City Police in changing those views, but also in these institutions like Mount Royal University. I've been there about 13 years now, and I've had the most challenging last 2 years with trying to implement our program that I'm teaching currently. I have a class tomorrow from 2:30 to 5, from 2 to 5:30 in the, for the nursing group, and it's all traditional native teachings and around Kisuatsuin, which is loving kindness, and Wahutuin, forming those relationships. And so I've got that in, but it was not approved by the powers of being to be because of accreditation for this year, but I'm still working at it, and I'm determined it's going to get in. It's already running, and I've got the approval. We have approval for the winter semester as well, and we have 13 students, Indigenous and non-Indigenous. Most of them are Cree. There's about three Cree in there and a couple Métis, and the non-Indigenous students as well. But it's an exciting program. I just love it, and I look forward to it.
Well, thank you so much for sharing. And thank you for everything that you've done over your lifetime. You've had so many accomplishments, and you are truly just an amazing person. And we're so grateful that you were able to join us today. I think we've all
Thank you.
learned so much, and I hope that the people listening to this podcast are also able to learn a lot from what you've shared with us. So thank you so
Thank you.
much for joining us today. If anybody wants to connect with us further, they can feel free to reach out to us on social media, or they can connect with us over email. So thanks again, Grandmother Doreen. We are so grateful that you were able to join us today. And yeah,
Hi.
yeah,
Thank you.
thanks
Yeah,
everyone.
thank you for being here. Thank you for coming, and thank you for talking to us.
Mm-hmm.
Bless you all.